Want to know what real estate investing really looks like? It looks like swimming through 8 feet of water towards electrical panels. It looks like discovering someone replaced electrical fuses with copper pipes. And it looks like evicting every tenant from a 6-unit building because of bed bugs. This wasn't 3 different properties. This was one property, one 6-unit building, one disaster after another. And by the time the dust settled, we were out about $77K. And these are 3 horror stories that nobody tells you about when they sell you the dream of passive income. So let's start with the flood. We bought our first commercial property when I was 41 years old. And like with most investors, I thought the hard part was finding the deal. But I was wrong. Just 2 weeks after closing, my property manager calls and says, hey, the hallway lights were out. Okay, not exactly an emergency. At least that's what I thought. Now, what I didn't realize was the common area electric account had never been transferred over to me. The previous owner shut it off. The hallway lights lost power. The sump pump lost power. And nobody realized it for 2 days. At the same time, a tropical storm rolled through. When it was over, I drove over to check on the property. The moment I opened the door to that basement, my stomach dropped. 8 feet of water, not a puddle, not a little flooding, 8 feet. And the water line just sat about 4 inches below the electrical panels and the disconnects mounted on the wall. So I immediately called Roto-Rooter. They came by, looked at it, and said, absolutely not. They weren't touching it. The basement contained electrical panels that at the time could service 600 amps, and nobody could guarantee that the power was off. So they left. $300 later, I was still standing with that exact problem. The power company, they weren't interested in touching that either, because they weren't interested in swimming through a flooded basement to change or to pull tabs on the meter. So for 2 days, I didn't really sleep. I stressed about the issue. What worried me was what would happen if the water rose, another few inches and we had another storm coming. So I called a buddy who does residential electrical and said, tell me how to pull the tabs. Now, before anyone gets excited about this or crazy about this, I am not recommending this at all. I'm telling you what happened. So there I was, flashlight in my mouth, swimming through 8 feet of black ass water, headed towards the electrical equipment, trying not to think how stupid of a situation I had just put myself in. I reached the panel wall, realized I had the wrong screwdriver, swam back, grabbed another one, swam back, because it was the wrong one. By this time, I was just pissed. Finally, third trip, right screwdriver. I loosened the meter, started transferring the flashlight from my mouth to my hand, and I didn't drop the screwdriver. At that point, I just laughed. Because somehow that flashlight had landed perfectly upright, pointing directly at the panel that I was trying to work on. If I had tried to place it there myself, I probably could not have done it. Pulled the tabs, installed the meter, flipped the breaker, and instantly I heard the sound that I was waiting for. The sump pumps kicking on, one after another. Water started moving. 10 minutes later, I was walking out of that basement. The building survived, no major damage, no insurance claim, no major catastrophe. But I sure learned a lesson I'll never forget. Never assume someone else is handling something. Not your property manager, not the seller, not the utility company. Today, one of the first questions I ask before buying a property, or today, one of the first questions I ask after closing is, can I have the utilities list? Because one missed account almost turned into a disaster. Unfortunately, that wasn't the biggest problem this building had in store for me. About 2 months later, a tenant called complaining about breakers tripping. First, it sounded minor, a nuisance call, something simple. Then the city got involved. The inspector opened the main disconnect, and that's when my life changed. Inside the disconnect, where fuses should have been, there were copper pipes. Not replacement fuses, not a temporary repair, actual copper pipes. The second I heard about it, I knew we were cooked. The building was essentially shut down. I was angry, and not because of the repair bill, because I was present during the inspection, during the building inspection. I watched the electrical panels get opened. I watched the inspectors do their work. But reading back through all of the paperwork and all the pictures, that means nobody opened it until that inspector did. Talking to the tenants, they described the previous owner as cheap. Nobody knows exactly who installed those copper pipes, but it didn't happen by accident. The repair process became death by 1,000 cuts. $5,000 here, $10,000 there. Oh, and another 5,000. Oh, guess what? We need to upgrade service, and you will pay for the 2 copper lines that go from the utility pole underneath the 100-foot house to the basement. That's another $9,000, please. One problem uncovered another, then another, then another. By the time it was all over, we had to replace 7 breaker panels, replaced the disconnect, upgraded service from 600 to 1200 amps, and installed new copper service lines. Total cost? About $29,000 and 3 months of vacancy. The lesson? Open everything. Every panel, every disconnect, every access cover. Trust, but verify. Because a $30,000 surprise could be hiding behind a panel that nobody opens. By that point, I thought we were good. I thought this property has taken its best shot within, 6 months' time. I thought we were good, but I was wrong. We re-tenant the house, or re-tenant the building, and I started noticing bites every time. I visited. Didn't think much of it. I fish. I'm outside all the time. Getting bit by something was not unusual. Then the tenant complaints started. Then more complaints. Then pictures. Bed bugs. This building had 6 units. 2 units per floor, 3 stories. At first, we thought we had it isolated to the middle floor. Then it spread upward, and then it spread down. We brought in pest service. We followed the treatment plan. Or at least we tried, but the problem was the tenants. The pest control company gave everyone instructions. Clean this, move that, bag these items, prepare your unit. Most of them did not cooperate at all. Some even insisted it wasn't their responsibility, but they still wanted treatment. And others flat out refused and told our PM that it's not their problem. After 2 treatments, came back as a failure. And it's not because the chemicals didn't work, because the process wasn't being followed. Then came the business decision. Everyone had to go. Every tenant wasn't taking any chances. The building was emptied, the building was treated, then renovated. That treatment alone cost 10 grand. And that was the final treatment. There's $2,000-$3,000 treatments prior to it. And the lost rent was another $18,000. Then we had to replace carpet with LVP, and then repairing all the other items was another 20 grand. Nearly 50 grand gone, just like that. And looking back, we believe the infestation actually started before we bought the building. We believe a college-age student moved into the building, and then the process started and just grew. But this lesson wasn't about bed bugs. This lesson was about asking better questions with the property manager, questioning the tenants, questions during due diligence potentially, because little warning signs have a way of becoming very expensive problems. People love talking about their cash flow. What they don't talk about is solving problems when things go sideways. And the reality is that a real estate portfolio isn't built during the easy months. It's built during moments like these. Moments where you're dealing with floods, electrical disasters, infestation, vacancies, unexpected bills, and then showing up the next day to keep building your portfolio or repair your portfolio. This is one 6-unit building that cost me over $80,000 in mistakes and repairs, vacancies, and this is one 6-unit building that cost me over $80,000 in mistakes, repairs, vacancies, and lessons. But it taught me more about investing than any seminar, book, course, or person ever could. And if you're investing long enough, you'll eventually collect your own horror stories about investing.